here's King David, and here's Solomon, and here's this, and I just kind of feel, uh, you know, not adequate in the presence of these spiritual titans. So there's a lot of different things I've gotten from it, but it's been interesting.
Interesting.
It's cool.
And I were recently discussing the soul and the body, we were just today, and I hadn't really thought about it too much, but I have not thought too much of the soul. Now, I consider myself spiritual, and that's a relatively new, as we know, that's a relatively new unearthing for me, and discovery within myself. But it struck me this morning as a bit odd that as a spiritual being, I haven't considered the soul much.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Well, I think that's because Christians have the New Testament, and I think it speaks to that a lot. It tells us what we think is going to happen. It tells us what happens to your soul.
The soul, okay.
Yeah, and so we have that out there, and I think that helps. If you're questioning your faith, it's just more verses it's just more stuff to convolute.
Sure.
And the more you can read and the more you have to ponder on, the more questions you can come up with. But it does, if you interpret the word as literal, and just really go at it with a closed mind. I mean, this is it, and everything's legit. Then it will tell you. It'll tell you what's going on with the soul, and so that's probably helpful for Christians.
I imagine is and this is from kind of a Christian background. Am I correct to, at least my thinking on this, it's not really a yay or nay thing. My thinking on this is that the afterlife is very much a factor in the Christian consideration of the soul. And particularly in terms of often medieval Christianity, in terms of the soul versus the body, the corporal form. And Jews, from my experience, I know there's the Kabbalah, which is the mystic end of Judaism, and I know very little about it.
Same here.
Very little about it. I don't know how much they get involved with soul and so on. The Jews, I don't think, traditionally consider heaven so much. It's very much a present tense religion. Life is here on earth, and this is where we operate. I haven't really received much feedback from my rabbis and the people who trained me about the afterlife. It's really never kind of come up, which is interesting. And I know that as a new Jew with a Christian family, a lot of my extended family particularly, really honestly and I think authentically worries for my soul. Because the idea is that if you're not, at least with their branch of Christianity refers to as saved, your soul does not gain redemption. And without redemption, you can't aspire to the higher plane.
Sure.
And I absolutely respect the thinking on that. I don't think that's,
It's tough to swallow. It is. Everybody's going to throw that at you. Your God, if He's a loving God, will not do that. Will not punish people to hell. And I can't wrap my brain around it.
Yeah.
I don't need to wrap my brain around it because it's not my decision to make.
Right.
That's the way I look at it. There's so many things that I can't accept, but I'll get to reading and and I think, but there's no excuse. It says in there so many times, I'm a jealous God. I will do this. I will do this if you don't do this. And in the Jewish faith, I mean, looking at the Old Testament, I mean, you've got example after example after example. I mean,
which is do you know
of the consequences?
Consequences for
real. So a part of you wants to say, oh well, sure, He'll do these things. He's done it before.
He's a reasonable guy, right?
He's told me 50 times not to do it, but then then the brain kicks in.
Sure.
And goes, that's just not right. That could never happen.
Sure.
It's not a loving thing to do.
Sure.
So on and so forth. And at one point, maybe I'll get to a study of that, and I'll look in there and really try to discern what I think is going to happen. But right now, on a basic level, my beliefs are that you can ensure that your soul moves on and goes on to serve the Messiah in a greater capacity for eternity.
Okay.
From a humanistic knowledge standpoint, that's very hard to believe. But
no,
I don't know how you plug that into the wall and it works.
I was gonna say, crazy.
I don't understand how my watch works.
Yeah, quantum physics. I mean, let's not go there, right?
So there's a lot I don't understand.
Sure.
And I just have to chalk it up to that. And it's That's hard because a lot of people consider that naive and backwards and whatnot, but that's fine because this is making me a better person.
Yeah.
I believe in it.
Amen to
And
that.
if it all works out according to the plan,
Absolutely.
I'm going to be better off for it in the long
Absolutely.
run. So I figure nothing can go awry with it.
Yeah.
And it's neat because you start really trying to. I think you get out of spirituality what you allow yourself to. I don't think until you open up your mind you'll get anything out of it.
Yeah. I agree.
You know, it was interesting the other day. I had a feud with a neighbor whose dog attacked my dog. And there was a vet bill that ensued, and my wife put out a letter and asked the neighbor to pay the vet bill. The neighbor did not. So after a week or two goes on, I found myself getting very angry. I'm about to lose my temper and go have this big confrontation and all this. In the meantime, I read some verses that day in my daily reading about a similar type situation, and basically, like, if you'll react properly, it'll come back to you.
Okay.
And so I got to driving home that day, and I thought, you know, this amount of money is a tank of gas now, which is like $700. But no, really, it's like $150. It's like a tank of gas in my gas guzzler.
It is a lot, yeah.
It's not worth it. It's not worth the stress. It's not worth ruining my reputation. It's not worth violence. You know. So I walk into my kid's daycare and I cut the lady a check for $141, I think, for tuition for the week. She goes, "No, you're double paid. You can keep this." No, I'm not. My wife keeps the bills, and
Yeah.
we don't double pay. You need to go back and double check. So I'm not going to rip you off. She goes, no, I'm not taking your money. You're double paid. It was my money back. And I thought, you know, if I hadn't opened my mind up that morning through those scriptures, I wouldn't have gotten anything from that.
No.
So let's say you want to look at it on the unspiritual side, and you want to say, okay, I don't believe in God. I don't believe that's God moving and helping you in your life and teaching you, working
More
for you.
coincidence. Happenstance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sort of
Let's
approach.
say
The willy-nilly.
Well, even if you want to look at it that way, what you can gather from it is good things come to good people.
Hey.
You know, good deeds begat good deeds.
Hey.
So even if you don't want to think that's you know, a spiritual being moving in your life, you know, at least maybe you can draw from it karma or whatever you want to draw from it. It can't hurt. It's good for the universe, you know.
Well, and if you benefit, you know, I mean, as far as I can tell, you were born alone and you will die alone. As that is on planet Earth, you know, who knows of whatever's on either side of that.
Yeah.
But if it benefits you and it's making you into the person you wish to be, I find no fault with that. And that's for people who do things that I disagree with.
Yeah.
That goes for people who do stuff that could be. Well, I mean, there's some pretty reprehensible behavior out there, but I mean, you know, I mean, within reason, without hurting others. I think there's a lot of room for that.
I mean, the afterlife is one of the hardest things to discuss, just because it makes no sense. You know, it really. And people say, "Oh well, if you work for a good life, you get there," and other people say, "Well, you know, for those of you who don't believe it's according to works."
Sure.
I mean, what gives you the right?
Sure.
You know?
Who knows?
You
Right.
said a prayer, you did a chant, you did whatever, and I see where they're coming from.
Sure. Yeah, me
and
too.
it's a faith issue.
Yeah.
And all my readings indicate that the whole shebang is about faith. So there you go.